A very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice. It's about 4:15 on Tuesday afternoon. I'm recording this show. And at the time of bringing in this show to you, Julen Lopetegui is still the head coach of West Ham United. And as far as we've been told, as far as we're aware, he oversaw yet another training session at Rush Green earlier today. Now, for all we know, this situation could change dramatically over the next hour or so, or maybe by this evening. And we may well get confirmation that Lopetegui has been relieved of his duties as head coach and that a new head coach or manager will be confirmed. Now, I use head coach or manager because we don't honestly know what's going to happen once Lopetegui leaves. Do we get a like for like and bring in another head coach with a technical director working alongside him? Or do we just go back to the traditional manager role? I wonder what David Moyes feels about that if we went back to the traditional manager role. But anyway, I was pretty much, by the way, if you're new to this channel, the first time you're coming across the West Ham Voice, please do consider becoming a subscriber of the channel. And if you enjoy the content or appreciate the content, please do hit the like button because it really does help to elevate the channel on YouTube. So I was pretty much certain that we were going to get confirmation of a new head coach or manager sometime today because, as usual, a pre-match press conference has been scheduled 2 days before our next game, which is, of course, against Aston Villa in the FA Cup. And that, of course, means that at this moment in time, a pre-match press conference is planned for Wednesday at around about midday. However, there's speculation amongst the media that the press conference might be delayed by 24 hours in order to give West Ham time to announce the arrival of a new head coach or manager. So what's the holdup? Despite all the noises that have been going around over the last 24 hours, why have we still not heard any more about Lopetegui's future and about a new manager or head coach coming in? Well, it seems that West Ham and Graham Potter, who remains the main candidate to take this role on, are still negotiating the length of the contract term that's on offer. West Ham are offering a 6-month deal with an option of an extension by around about 2 years, should the 6 months go well. Potter, however, is asking for a straight 2.5-year deal now, rather than the interim 6 months with the extension option. But Potter is not the only individual who's been interviewed for the role, with former AC Milan manager Paulo Fonseca, who was only fired from his role recently, and also former PSG and Nice manager and controversial character Christophe Galtier also having been interviewed. There is another manager who's been also seen by the board, but I don't have his name at this moment in time. So what about Fonseca? Well, as far as Fonseca's concerned, it was thought that the current squad available to him at West Ham would not be the right fit for the style of football that he would want to play. And instead of having to tweak the squad in the January window, there'll be a requirement of another major overhaul in order to provide him with the squad that he needs to play the style of football that he prefers. Now, that's all very well. But the one thing that we don't really want to do at this moment in time, or again in the summer, is to have to rip the team apart again, rip the squad apart again, start all over again. We did this under Lopetegui. Well, we kind of had to do it under Lopetegui because of the squad that was left by Moyes. But to go out again and having to recruit, bring in another 7, 8, 9 players, will just continue with the imbalance that's happening at West Ham. I've spoken about, sort of having to keep having short-term fixes in place. And at this moment in time, it'll be seen that Fonseca might just be out of the fire into the frying pan. We've got the issue with Lopetegui, with half a new squad who hasn't coped. We could end up having the same situation with Fonseca, with another 7, 8, 9 players, and then maybe he will struggle as well. But what about Galtier? Well, he is a controversial character, whose temperament might rub a number of players up the wrong way. Last year, he and his son were arrested after being accused of making racist remarks about players, and he went to trial over it. He was manager of Nice at the time. Look, he was acquitted of the charges, but that's kind of left a bit of a stigma about that particular character. It's absolutely right that West Ham United are considering several candidates. It offers them the opportunity to compare. But having said all that, Potter continues to be the main target amongst what sounds like the whole West Ham board. And yes, that includes Daniel Kretinsky. So why not just go and approve the 2.5-year deal that he now wants? Well, the obvious is that if things don't go well, West Ham will yet again have to face paying out compensation to a manager who's failed in his role. I mean, football management, it's a wonderful job to have, isn't it? Where even if you fail, you still get paid. Now, despite the length of the contract term, Potter has agreed in principle to be the new manager or head coach of West Ham United. So the question really remains is how are West Ham and Potter going to overcome the issue and how they're going to find a solution to the contract situation? On the one hand, you could argue that if Potter believes he's good enough for the job at West Ham, then he will accept the 6 months with the option to extend and demonstrate to everyone that he's more than capable of being the right man for the job. On the other hand, Potter will rightly want to secure a longer term future for himself and stick to his demand of a 2.5-year deal. But what does a short term offer from West Ham say about West Ham United itself? Now, it seems to me that we're back to a situation that we've had in the past, where when we brought David Moyes twice to the club, he came in on a short-term 6-month deal. And if you remember, West Ham United have got form in not necessarily extending that deal, just like they did to Moyes after his first spell at the club when he was unceremoniously discarded in favour of Manuel Pellegrini. So a 6-month deal also indicates quite potentially that West Ham United have got their eye on an alternative candidate this coming summer. Now, one of the things that West Ham didn't really want to do was to go for a new manager, new head coach halfway through this season. They genuinely thought that Lopetegui would be able to see them through at least this season, at the very, very least. However, when it comes to the summer, and also, changing a manager halfway through the season means you have less options available to you. Whereas in the summer, there might be more options available that West Ham United might favour. And one of those options is that West Ham have for some time have had their eye on Bournemouth's Andoni Iraola. He's caught the eye of the West Ham board. I know I can never pronounce his surname correctly. At this moment in time, Iraola. At this moment in time, Iraola still has a year and a half left on his current Bournemouth contract. By the summer, that will be down to just a year, and the compensation to get him out of that contract will be quite minimal because Iraola is the lowest paid manager in the Premier League at this current moment in time, of just £1 million a year. Now, it's possible that Bournemouth may offer him a new contract, new terms, more money, etc. But at this moment in time, he is on £1 million a year and he'll have a year left on his contract. So a short-term deal made to Potter also reaffirms in my eyes that Sullivan is still uncertain about him. I've stated several times before that Sullivan is not the biggest fan of Potter, as he believes that Potter's success at Brighton comes off the back of Tony Bloom's, who is the owner of Brighton, comes off the back of Tony Bloom's investment in data-driven analysis. Bringing in talent from around the world doesn't necessarily require the input of a manager or a head coach. All the manager or head coach has to do is come in and coach those players and pick the team. This is a really big choice for West Ham. The next head coach or manager has to be the right fit, as the last thing the board will want to keep doing is chopping and changing who will be in that role. So I get it. West Ham want to keep their options open, but I also get it. Potter wants a bit more than just 6 months, with the possibility of extending it. I'm sure we're going to hear an awful lot more about this story, an awful lot more about what's happening at West Ham United. It's never a dull moment being a West Ham fan. So keep your eyes open and keep your eyes and ears open for what is coming up next. But at this moment in time, the reason why no deal has been yet confirmed for Potter to take over is because of ongoing negotiations about the length of the contract. I'm sure we're going to hear more. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Costs you nothing to do so. And whether you're new or an existing subscriber, please hit that like button as well. It's really important for elevating the channel on YouTube if you hit that like button. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please do leave your comments as well. And I'll see you all very soon.